What's going on, guys? It is the Derf. It has been a minute since I've uploaded a video, but now with Act 3 upon us and the artifact completely unlocked, I thought it appropriate to revisit some of the builds that I'd made for this season with all the updated perks, and hopefully some of these changes will help you improve your gameplay as well as make it more enjoyable. So without further ado, I'm going to breeze through some of this. Let's get into it. So first up, I'm going to breeze through the actual build. Now, my only change that I've made from my previous video, aside from these stat distributions, you can see I overshot a little bit on resilience, but some of that is also plus 10 from one of these fragments. The only addition that I've made now is I now have the exotic class item, and I have Feed the Void on all Warlock classes now. I decided kind of after some testing that only having 5 fragment slots as opposed to 6 was actually more beneficial for me in higher end content. And quite honestly, it's probably going to be more beneficial for you. So Feed the Void as opposed to the Hellion, which I did have previously, I recommend putting that on along with Weaver's Call. So abilities don't really matter. Use whichever ones that you find most usable. Obviously, Arcane Needle and Threadling Grenade, probably the two most powerful options, still remaining in the ability slot. And obviously, you got your Song of Flame, 9 minutes and 16 seconds base cooldown. Obviously, my play style. I like to get my super back quick, so that's not going to be a factor if you build your Warlock in the solar realm like I've got mine. So quick overview of fragments. We got Facet of Awakening, which is where my extra plus 10 resilience comes in. Didn't plan it because I built the armor to handle whatever it comes in season to season. Facet of Purpose, minus 10 recovery, but you get the Orb of Power bonus. Facet of Honor, collecting elemental pickup or destroying a tangle, gives you Transcendence energy. Facet of Sacrifice gives me a plus 10 to Discipline, which I am taking advantage of. And Facet of Balance, rapidly defeating targets with light damage, grants melee energy. And Darkness, Grenade. So I have tweaked my armor to my personal preference. Again, my preference isn't everyone's preference. A lot of people with Warlock like to go Resilience, Recovery, and Discipline. I want my super back as quickly as possible. That's how I built this. That's how I built all my Warlocks. I know that that's not for everyone, but it makes the game more enjoyable for me. And if you do like the super, it should make it more enjoyable for you to be able to pop it more frequently. But Resilience, kind of a non-negotiable. Discipline, non-negotiable. And I focused all my armor onto Intellect, which is how I got, 3 10s across the board. Excuse me, I focused all my armor on Resilience because you get 1 here and then you get 2 from the bottom group. So that's what I did. That's why I overshot Resilience a little bit. But triple 100s in this build, I don't have any complaints and I don't have any survivability problems in pretty much everything that I do. So we're going to get into this. I'm going to go through the artifact perk or the artifact first. Hunter's Journal. Now that we have Act 3 and Act 2, we've got the additions of row number 6 and row number 7, these two right here. So I want to talk a little bit about what I've got selected. I'm going to go through the weapons I have first, and then I'm going to show you why I have it selected like this. Now, for the most part, the new artifact has the playstyle set up in its outline that fits me best. I love auto rifles, so the addition of this row right here has been very welcome for me. But I do know that not everyone loves auto rifles. Some people really do like the hand cannon. Some people really like the pulse rifles. But I have this built for this specific solar class to maximize my damage potential. So first up, I've got the Call. I've got No Hesitation. And here we go. We got Whisper of the Worm. Now, if you know me, I'm not a huge sniper user, but this is going to fit in just about every activity, especially legend and master stuff, because of how not swirly a lot of these master bosses are. There's only going to be a few exceptions where you're going to have to get a little bit creative and drop Whisper and maybe go with the sword, or put on Still Hunt, which is still an excellent option for DPS. But here's where it gets complicated. So Bungie is doing one of two things. They are either catering to what the players are asking for, or what I think they're actually doing is they're messing with the community. And what I mean by that is this. With the addition of not 5, not 6, but 7 rows of perks to choose from in the artifact, but only still 12 available, they're pretty much forcing you to decide what kind of player you want to be on each elemental class. In other words, Solar, the way I've got Solar built, is completely different than what I have my Strand built, and is completely different than what I have my Arc built. So you have to decide what kind of player you want to be, and based on that, you're going to have to decide if some of these perks in here, you're just going to miss out because it doesn't make sense to put these on for every single class. So you're going to be constantly coming in here with the surges changing, the threats changing, things like that. You're going to be constantly coming in here and messing with this and switching out weapons and perks based on what element you have. So Solar, this is how I have it run for Solar. But you might have something a little bit different depending on what kind of play style you have. But I will say this. The sniper options, Bungie is pretty much forcing their hand on this. They came out with Still Hunt. You have Whisper from last season. They're forcing you, if you aren't a sniper, to become a sniper. Because if you don't, your only other option for synergy, for piercing, is going to be the pulse rifle or the submachine gun. Now, I don't know if you've used a submachine gun in a Master or a Legend Lost sector. It doesn't really work out that well, especially when most times you're going through there taking your time and you're hitting stuff from distance. So submachine gun, in my opinion, is going to be pretty pointless. You're going to be sitting there firing for a long time. Now, granted, you have unlimited ammo, but I don't want to spend a half an hour going through a Legend or a Master Lost sector. And again, I'm just using that as an example. So if you played the game long enough, if you've tried some harder content, and again, I like to make my videos universal so people, high skill and low skill can kind of make sense of what I'm saying. High skill, I will get more feedback because it's not exactly made for high skill. But also, the new players, the people just getting into this is kind of where you have to use some common sense. It doesn't make any sense to use a submachine gun when you're going to go through some content. You're not going to be running into the room with 10 bad guys and unloading your entire clip and killing them all with just one clip. That's where the auto rifle comes in. You can pick them off from a distance, and you can still get some synergy with the rest of it. But as far as the anti-barrier, those are the only other two options besides sniper. So you're pretty much forced, if you're going to run into somewhere that's got barrier champ, and you don't want to waste your exotic on something like Polaris Lance, which again, if you're not doing the right thing, even that won't proc. And not to mention you've got another scout rifle option in here. Then you're pretty much forced to pick a slot that's going to have your sniper. So in here, again, if you want to take advantage of everything, your options are mainly Whisper of the Worm in your heavy, so now your heavy exotic is taken, or your Still Hunt, which then your exotic is taken and your energy. So again, that's not a bad thing, but if you use your sniper in one of these two, then you've got to use this to cover whatever other champion you're going to come across. Or maybe you're just dealing with tanky enemies in general and you want to be able to stun them period point blank. Then again, you're going to take advantage of the artifact perk. So if you use your sniper, those are they're available in all three slots. The problem is if you want to take advantage of surges, then one of your two main slots, your kinetic or your energy slot, is going to be taken up by your sniper. And that's going to leave your heavy slot pretty much open to only one thing. There is only one thing that the artifact perk puts on your heavy that you can actually utilize. And that's if you want to use Overload Sword. If you use Overload Sword, then you're going to be taking off either your auto rifle and all of its benefits, and you're going to have less ammo economy, or you're going to be taking out your unstoppable scout rifle, which doesn't have many perks to it, but again, it kind of seems like, why would I waste these slots up here on a sword when I can get this one right away? I can get that one right away. Sustained fire, damage with auto rifle gauge damage resistance. I don't see that necessarily happening with swords. Not only that, but this one consumes an armor charge, which is fine. And this one refunds some ammo. Well, guess what I don't have to worry about if I'm using an auto rifle? I don't have to worry about ammo. So that's why I say, like, Bungie is, I believe they're playing with us. They're either completely unsure, they're either not play testing, or they're making too many options. Like, if they wanted us to, play our way, they would make it beneficial for us to use any of this stuff instead of making it overwhelmingly beneficial to use a sniper and an auto rifle versus any of these other options, with the exception of maybe a hand cannon. Certainly the unstoppable sidearm. I think that's non-negotiable. Everyone likes using the call. Even in non-surge activities, I mean, the call is just phenomenal. And obviously you see how I've got it built. I've got it built with Beacon and Vorpal. I'm not using it as an AI clear, although some people do. I'm using it more just when champs come along. This is what I'm whipping out first and foremost. And if I really need some help, then I'm pulling out the sniper. But again, that's not going to be super helpful if you have a swirly champ or if you have a swirly boss. So that's why I say, like, Bungie is just starting to kind of mess with people. There's literally no other heavy weapon option in here besides swords. And you have to choose some other perks and disregard some other perks in order to even have these available if you want the anti-barrier capability and the damage potential of sniper rifles. So they're pretty much forcing your hand. You can either wield a sword or you can be a sniper. So how I've got it set up, and again, this is going to be the majority of what you're going to use it for. You're going to be using this on bosses. Now, if you're going into a swirly boss situation, you're going to have to decide what weapon you're going to be using, because this might not be the best. If he's on the ground, okay, you can use the exotic for the lament. You'll get the overload bonus. But then it's pretty much pointless to have an auto rifle in here. So then you're going to need to, you're going to need to switch out the overload for the auto rifle, put on anti-barrier, and then take your, if you do end up, well, you can't put still hunt on. So if you take away your sniper, then you can use these. But the damage potential with snipers is just so much better in just about every situation, with the exception of maybe Crota. That's one of the only ones I could think where Crota's, you're going to use swords. Maybe on Legendaires, and then some Master Lost sectors. Again, if it's not a swirly boss, the Whisper with its ammo economy is going to be your best bet. So this is why it fits my style, this build. For Solipsism, I've got what I believe is one of the best options. Spirit of Apotheosis, which is gain melee and grenade regeneration after your super ends. And Spirit of Harmony, weapon final blows grant super energy as long as they match your elements. So I'm getting a twofer here. I'm getting the dealer's choice buff, and I'm getting the fact that it's a solar weapon buff. So I'm getting my super back relatively quick. So for this particular build, it makes sense to run this and run this. But if I run into a situation where, I can buff with kinetic damage, I can always swap out the call and put a sniper on there. I just won't get the damage buff from the scorching with the solar sniper rifle precision hit that I would if I just had either still hunt or whisper on. So again, you are really gambling with what you can do. Now, you could switch out, no hesitation, and you could put on the new solar sidearm that's got the beacon rounds or incandescent or whatever. But then you're going to run into the situation of, well, it doesn't really pair well with Spirit of Harmony. So now you're rebuilding your class, or you're rebuilding your loadout because you wanted to switch two weapons. That's why this is tough, and that's why I say Bungie either just doesn't want people to have as much fun as they possibly can, or they're messing with people on purpose to see who's going to stick around. Either way, I don't think it's going to work out in Bungie's favor, which is why, so many people are looking at this going, well, we love the final shape, but this episode stuff and this, this artifact and what they're forcing us to kind of put it into, is really turning people off. So if you don't like auto rifles and you don't like snipers, you're probably not going to have a good time with this season, at least not as of the last two releases. But if you like using the hand cannons, if you like using the scout rifle, you're probably sitting there wishing that there was more potential from them. Because what's the benefit of using these two when if you use an auto rifle, you get damage resistance and you get increased weapon damage. Awards bonus progress when dealing final blows while surrounded. So again, having an anti-barrier submachine gun is great, but you get so much more if you're just using targeting autoloader. So that's kind of what I'm going to leave it at as far as that. So as far as the rest of the build goes, I do put the siphons on, and I believe it's important to try to get your energy and your heavy class to synergize. The reason for that is you want to be able to put on harmonic reserves and harmonic scavenger. You're never really going to be hurting for ammo with the call, but there is no heavy solar or heavy strand snipers, so you can't use that as an option. So you get the added benefit of the ignition with the whisper and the ignition with the no hesitation. Again, this is just my play style, and every kill you get with either of those two weapons boosts your super energy regen. And oh, by the way, if you do kill something with the call, it's got that dealer's choice option on it as well. So moving on, heavy ammo finder. I do have a little bit of a stat increase to discipline. And I'm still running the Echoes of Glory perk on this armor. I've just got the ornaments on it, which gives my little glow there, which synergizes with the color of your super. For the gloves, I've got firepower and heavy-handed. I've also got a little intellect buff as well as a solar loader, so that's going to increase my reload rate of the Whisper, which is going to be helpful in the event that you don't hit all three of your crits. So you don't get your magazine auto reloaded with the normal buff that the Whisper comes with. The chest, whichever activity you're going into, you put 2 damage mods on there and you put the reserves on there. Now you don't necessarily need the reserves. I really like it because if I'm going to spam my heavy, I'm planning on exercising the whole reserve. Then I got to go pick up, more ammo. So again, that's just how I play. As far as the legs, I got double absolution and solar scavenger. Now you can take off one of the absolutions, and you can put on a surge, like the solar weapon surge, which I think would be a great option if you don't care about getting your abilities back as fast. I want it back as fast as possible, so that's why I have it. You can also put another scavenger mod on, although I don't really think it's, there's really no point to it. Or if you want, you can put the strand scavenger on. But again, kind of redundant. You're not rapid firing that call anyways. So the only option, I think, in my opinion, which again, if you want to take advantage of elemental charge, you're going to have to sacrifice something in the Hunter's Journal because you're going to lose some power to get this. I don't think it's worth it. So solar weapon surge, and you just drop one of these absolutions. So you still get the 100% benefit of the first absolution. You don't get the little extra benefit from picking up orbs of power. So that'd be the only thing I would change if I were concerned about that. As far as the exotic class item, I've got Font Restoration, and I've got basically stuff that's going to give me orbs of power. so I can keep Font of Restoration constantly active. I want my recovery at T10 while I have three other stats at T10 as well. The reason I'm not worried about strength is that with this build, with Arcane Needle, you can stack up to 3 melees. So I'm not really worried about, the melee recharge timer, because I'm really only using that if I want an Orb of Power to proc this, or if I am dealing with the champ and I want that tick damage while I'm unloading the auto rifle or the call into it. So that's the build. There's not a whole lot to say as far as flexibility. Now, if you're like, you know what, I don't like No Hesitation, I want to use something else, that's fine. You can use Amit. Okay, Amit is certainly an excellent option. You don't have to wait for the projectiles to track to the target. You can, hit them instantly with Amit. Obviously, you see I'm in love with this weapon. It's 19,000 kills. But No Hesitation's been around for a fraction of the time, and I've already got 10k with it, so I really like that one as well. But if you do switch to Amit, you can, or let's just say you don't want to use a special ammo call, you could switch out to Breachlight, Slice, and Hatchling. That's an excellent option. Of course, to take advantage of the Cast No Shadows perk, you're going to have to come in here and decide, am I going to utilize the Saint's Inspiration, or am I just going to use it in its base state? So I like to combine perks. I like things to feed off of each other. These two feed off of each other. You get your super back quicker. The No Hesitation's got the super back quicker, and it pairs with Spirit of Harmony. And Whisper, it's kind of in a league of its own. It is what it is. But because it's a solar sniper rifle, it also pairs with Harmony. So everything I have here pairs with at least one thing in here to buff my utility as an overall player. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to load into one of my favorite build testing spots, Altars with Sorrow, and just run through real quick kind of how it would play out. There's some swirliness in here, so you're going to kind of see why I feel like Bungie is just kind of messing with the community. You give us all these primary ammo options and a couple of special ammo options as far as taking advantage of the perk in the Hunter's Journal, but it doesn't give hardly any heavy ammo options, which really stinks. It does give you swords, but then you've got the sword in your heavy. There's no point in equipping Ergo Sum, which I know a ton of people love using that sword. So, it's just one of those things where it's like, who do you want to be? That's why I said I think Bungie is just trying to force people to make a decision on who they want to be. Now you can see that the auto rifle right there. Yeah, see, and that's going to be your issue. So a swirly boss like this guy right here, it's going to be hard for you to take advantage of your heavy like you've been able to take advantage of heavies before. So maybe in this situation you would switch out for Lament, and then you could switch out No Hesitation. You could put on well, you can't put on Sunshot because your exotic is already used. So that's kind of where that's what I'm saying. Bungie is either really wanting people to struggle to make a build that they feel like is a complete build, or they want people to play specifically their way, and they think that it is applicable to all game styles, which it's not. You're not going to take a sniper into everything. But, I've been in here for less than 60 seconds. Well, maybe about 60 seconds, somewhere in there. Already got my super. So again, this bodes well for my play style. I'm really not using my heavy to kill bosses ever. And I still have the option, if I don't want to run the sniper, I can take all those all of those perks off from having the sniper, and I can put put on Microcosm and just have the raw DPS potential that Microcosm has. But again, you're taking away from what you could be using the artifact for. So anyway, so that's the video. Let me know in the comments what you think. It was kind of a rough video. I know it's been a minute since I posted. Bungie is in kind of a weird... Bungie is definitely in a weird place right now. I don't think it's been this... I mean, this artifact is... This artifact is proof that Bungie doesn't know what they're doing. They don't know what direction they want to go. They don't know what they want people to do. With so many different options, but really being heavily weighted into only a couple of options. You know, these two. First of all, you had to wait 3 acts to even get to this point. 2 acts for the sniper, and then the 3rd act for the auto rifle. So you had almost no weapon benefits over here other than just the first column. But now you've got all these weapon benefits over here for these last 2 rows. So it's just one of those things where, you know, you look at here, there's so much randomness going on. Like if you really want swords, okay, you got to sacrifice the auto rifle. Well, then you don't get everything out of the auto rifle that you want, so why would you ever run it? Then you're getting into a situation where if you like the call and you like swords, well, now you're running double special. Not a lot of people like to do that. So let me know what you think in the comments. Again, this build is made so that you can get your super quickly. That's what the Spirit of the Harmony is for. That's why I like running No Hesitation. So as far as like overall utility, this is still 100% viable. You can still slap on Lament without having any of these perks on here, and you can still nuke a boss. Okay, there's nothing saying that you have to run the call. There's nothing saying you have to run No Hesitation. But if you want to take advantage of all these options right here, Whisper is really the only one that takes advantage of something that I think, you know, is viable. The only other one is Ergo Sum, but again, you have to decide what kind of player you want to be in this column before you even open this column. So anyways, leave a like, leave a comment, let me know what you think. I'm going to leave a link to my original Solar Warlock build so you can kind of see where I had it versus where I took it. You still can run the original way that I said, but you're not going to get the added benefit of stacking sniper shots and stacking auto rifle shots. So until next time, I appreciate all your support. Thanks for your patience. And I may be adding another game to my repertoire for videos. So I'll keep you guys in the loop on that. You guys take care, and I'll see you next time.